Hi, I'm Barb Kimiech, and I'm here with Charles Tang at Vancouver's historic Carnegie Centre Library at East Hastings and Main. I have with me Natalie Porter, the head librarian. Morning, and Carl McDonald, who is a longtime patron of the library and a resident of the neighborhood. So Natalie, you've been here at the library since the summer of 2014, I believe.
Right.
Yeah,
yes.
and I know you're passionate about this community that you serve. And can you tell me a bit about what brought you here? What have you learned since you've come here, and what do you love about it here? What do you love?
Well, about a year before I came to Carnegie, I was working as a community librarian. So that role is really about going out into the community, whether it's a shelter, a soup kitchen, an addiction recovery center, and just creating good rapport with the community. And I really enjoyed that work, and I knew that the downtown east side would be vibrant, challenging, never boring. So I really wanted to be here. And the job came up, and it was a branch head role, which was a little intimidating, but I had Beth Davies, who had worked here as the Carnegie branch head for years, so I knew she would be my boss and mentor. So I was excited to go for it, and so I was successful and pretty excited. And the thing that I learned straight up was never to judge anyone, whether it's their reading tastes, their history, just be really open. And majority of my job here, I feel, is just listening to people's stories, extending kindness and patience, and definitely a fulfilling job. So I learned never to judge, and primarily every Friday on the Hastings Street we do a book giveaway, and that's where I just listen to some really candid, raw stories, and yeah, it was fascinating, and it's the highlight of my week. I'm also evolving my attitude towards, for example, people with addictions, drug users. All of them have a story, and whether it's often quite traumatic, whether it's childhood sexual abuse, residential schooling, 60s scoop, they've come from somewhere that's pretty raw. And I just admire the perseverance of many of these people, and they're all heroes. They're out saving lives during the fentanyl crisis, and they're using their creative abilities to draw attention to these situations. So it's a privilege to work with people here.
Yeah. Well, and libraries are about people, I think, right? That's what a library, and it sounds like this one for sure is very connected to the community that you serve. As far as the services that you provide to your patrons, I know you offer a wide range of services. Can you give me a few examples of how you've collaborated with other organizations in the community, and also how patron input has helped to shape the services that you offer?
Well, I definitely believe that the community members and my patrons are the experts, and I want to make sure that the programs we offer are appealing to them. So I'm often grateful for people like Carl here who'll give me a flag and a heads up. For example, a wonderful artist named Sandra Ewan McKay, she offered a workshop called Art, Healing, and Mental Illness, and she suffers from schizophrenia herself, but uses art as a healing process. And I never would have met her or heard about her if it wasn't for Carl, and that was a phenomenal workshop that we had. And then part of my role as well, I've been helping coordinate the Alley Health Fair, which is sort of a Homeless Connect festival every year, bringing together health service providers on the street, offering food, haircuts, music. It's a real party. Also thinking about, we do fun things like we had a motorcycle storytelling night, just things that'll bring some joy and pleasure and interest to people.
Yeah, and you've got the seed bank as well, I think.
That's been really fun. Sarah Common from Hives for Humanity, as well as Hastings Urban Farm, proposed that they would regularly donate packets of seeds. So we have these buckets here, and people can come take herbs and vegetables and flower seeds, and they're all free and donated. So anytime someone wants to offer something, I try to say yes.
Yeah, that's very cool. Very cool, Natalie. And as far, you forgot one. Right, yeah, sure. Right.
I had a patron last summer, Joseph. He approached me and was like, what do you think of offering a short story book club writing workshop? And I'll bring these New Yorker articles and give it a go, and people will come together, they'll read the short story and use it as a writing prompt. And so I just said yes, let's go for it. A little skeptical about the summer, if it would be successful or not. And sure enough, it was. We had a long run throughout the summer, and we're going to relaunch it in the winter, just keep the momentum going. So pretty much anytime a patron wants to give something a go, within boundaries, I'll try to make it work.
Wonderful, wonderful. And so that's awesome. And we also have, however, it's a library, you have special collections. What can people expect to find when they come to this library?
Well, obviously, we're quite a small library at 1,900 square feet, but we do our best to utilize the space. We're obviously in Chinatown, so we have a great Chinese collection and a Chinese library technician who helps us with that. As well, an Aboriginal collection, which most of the material was vetted by elders, so it's something that we can be really proud of. As well, we have the Bud Osborne collection, which is unique to us. A few years back, a family member donated all of his personal books to us, so that's poetry and social activism. So people can come in and flip through and see his underlines and notes and check out the material. Obviously, DVDs are very popular. We circulate about 70% of our collection is DVDs. People may not necessarily have the funds to pay for streaming or those sort of bonus things that a lot of people take advantage of. So yeah, DVDs all the way. Finally, our Downtown Eastside Special Collection. This is a material, it's in my office, that are unique to the Downtown Eastside, our history, poetry, there's plays written by local people. And I should mention that Travis Lupak, he's a Georgia Straight journalist who's been writing on the overdose crisis. He took advantage of that collection, so now I'm getting him to come back and do a launch of his new book, Fighting for Space, all about the history of activists and drug users in the neighborhood. So that worked out pretty well.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. A rich collection of materials here for anyone who wants to come drop in, check it out. And I'm going to pass the mic over to Charles now. He's going to chat with Carl about Bud Osborne, who wrote a poem about him, and other things.
Yes, Carl, we know that you have been here with the library since it was reopened back in the 1980s. And we know that you brought lots of good ideas and have a nice interaction with this library. Could you tell us about the history of this library and your interaction?
This is now an official Vancouver library run by the city of Vancouver. Before that, it was just called the Reading Room, Carnegie Reading Room. And the nice thing about it is a lot of people down in this area do not have identification or even have housing, some of them. And back in the day, all you had to do was present like a receipt where you were, where you are living, or proof of something of who you are, and you would get a card, a reading, Carnegie Reading Room card, which allowed you maybe 1 or 2 books. At the time it was VHS tapes.
Lots of westerns. People love
Yeah, I
the
was just
westerns.
gonna think of the man's name. Louis L'Amour
Oh yeah.
was one of the more famous
Right.
writers that people like to read from. All kinds of history like that. And of course the National Geographics.
Oh yeah.
Yes, I remember those quite well. Not like today, a lot of people didn't even have a television set. And if they did, there was no cable or nothing, so they depended on the library for the VHS tapes. And which I started showing movies from a long time ago.
And Natalie just mentioned Bud Osborne.
Yes.
And we know that Bud Osborne has written an amazing poem about you.
Yes.
And also you are a poem writer yourself. This library have 2 of your poem books.
Yes.
And I think this also related to your life with the library.
Yes.
So could you read a poem for us and explain to us why this is important and how is this that give you
Well,
the relation you have with the
Go
library?
back just a little bit
Okay.
there. I wasn't really much of a writer or anything. A friend of mine had died, and I wrote a little poem about him, and it went from there on. I started getting more and more into it. With the Carnegie newsletter, we have a newsletter that comes out twice a month, and you get influenced by getting little coffee tickets, 4 or 5 tickets to go upstairs on the second floor and have a little lunch or something. Anyways, this is my book, The Blue Bench. This is this is the 5th copy of this book. Let's hope this one doesn't disappear. They just seem to go away. Anyways, I just did this. I just did this just to show myself I could do this. And so one day I'm just up on the 3rd floor there, and I just thought, well, hey, anytime I go to have a bowl of soup, they ask me if I want crackers. I say, of course I'm crackers. So I wrote this little thing, crackers. Carnegie soup, that's all I can afford. Well, maybe a cup of green tea. They give it to me with a small for free, and they always give me crackers. Shitty Hall knows but does not care. The downtown east side hosts drugs and crime. I may not have a dollar. I may not have a dime. But I'll get by as long as I have my crackers. Some folks have money, big shiny cars, bulletproof windows, comfy bucket seats. I only have a cat that loves to eat, and that's okay. I'll be happy just the same as long as I have my crackers. $2.25 to ride the city bus and the sea bus and the sky train. I do not have the transit fare, so I walk out in the rain. The seagulls seem to laugh at me as I walk hatless again. A raven crackles back at them. Well, at least he's got his crackers. So when the world hands you a turd, remember what I say. Yesterday is gone, today is here, tomorrow's far away. Time will take care of itself. So please just leave time alone. And please remember, don't forget, always share your crackers.
That's amazing, yeah.
Thank you.
So I can probably, what I can learn from this point is that here in the center they have a cafe that provides food for our body.
Yes.
They have books for our souls.
Yes.
And your poem warm our hearts.
Yes. Thank
So
you.
that's wonderful. And I will give the camera back to Barbara
I'd just
to
like
conclude.
maybe one little thing to
Yeah,
talk about the
great.
history of this place. Right behind us used to be a big shelf, and what they did have here is somebody from the police department that ended up being a writer. He obtained somehow books, photo books of people that had died in one way or another, sometimes tragic, sometimes just unbelievable. And that was shared with many, many people until that one day took a walk too. But it was just amazing of the things that we did have here and that we do have now.
Exactly. We have to cherish what we have, right?
Yes.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you, Charles, and thanks, Carl, for reading your poem. I loved it, actually. Very moving to me. And Natalie, anything else that you would like to share with us about that we haven't talked about? I mean, we've had a short time here together today to talk about the library. Anything else?
Well, I just have to say, it really is the patrons and people like Carl that are the highlight of working here. Obviously, it's a difficult neighborhood. There's people who have mental illness issues and all kinds of struggles. And I just remember this one time where a person was particularly angry and riled up, and it was a pretty jarring experience. But then Carl came up just moments later, and he just turned to me. He's like, "Well, you know what? You can't please everyone." It was awesome, and I'm just so grateful for folks here. I regularly have hugs and just real pick-me-ups because it's a pretty wild place sometimes. So I'm always grateful for the solid, awesome guys who are here, and it's been a real blast.
Again, it's all about the people, I think, right? So so Charles, thank you. It's been great. And Carl and Natalie, thank you so much for this time together. And one thing I forgot to highlight though is the Friday book giveaway. How can people donate? And do you have special requests of what kinds of things you want people to donate?
Sure. Well, I'm always grateful for donations because it's literally every single week we're out on Hastings and it's rain or shine or snow. We're out there with our tent. Often some people cannot come into the center. There are some barriers, whether it's drug use or alcohol use, and so there are some limitations. So we go out into the street. So we'll take everything and anything, books, magazines, movies. Folks are still borrowing VHS. So always grateful for donations, and it keeps us humming along.
Okay, thank you so much, and to our viewers, thanks very much for tuning in. It's Barb Kimiech and Charles Tang with Access TV. Thanks, and see you next time.